hidden potential of your team yet? So today, Roxanne and I are going to talk about the 3 secrets to unlocking hidden team potential. And we're going to cover today how to tap into your inner team leadership, increase collaboration, and focus on achieving business outcomes. And lastly, above all, improve team motivation and engagement. So come join us today, starting now. So funny as we're talking about, we changed our logo. We need to change our intro. Any of you have ideas of how we need to shift that intro? Let us know. Welcome, everyone. Those of you that are on the LinkedIn platform, YouTube, we do have the Facebooks. Welcome to our live today. So we are all about the 3 secrets. Can't even talk. Secrets to unlocking hidden team potential. And so this is centered around to one of our categories, which obviously the game-changing work is all about helping shift to an outcome-centric culture. So this is all related to that. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people are starting to wonder is how do we actually build a high performance culture that directly helps us drive our business results for profitability, right? But at the same time, we want to be very close to addressing what our people need, right? We know there's a huge talent shortage and a lot of kerfuffle around that, right? The great resignation. And so all of this is related that we talk about, right? We talk about strategy, process, and people in relation to, right? It's always about a holistic approach.
Yeah, it's always about a holistic approach. And we hear more and more of these conversations. And what I find is people get more confused rather than more clear about what does that even mean? How do we get back to being a high performing team again? What does that mean in this kind of context? And what do we need to do to be able to get back into high performance, into the high performance seat? I find that a lot of organizations, a lot of leaders, and a lot of teams are so confused about that right now.
Yeah.
That's why we wanted to uncover the top 3 secrets, because
And it's not only confused, but it's stressful.
it is
Because at the
stressful.
end of the day, you still are trying to, uh, you know, run a business.
Yeah.
And we talk about a lot of these fancy things that we need to do out there, right? I mean, hey, I even admitted I posted, I thought I'd poke fun at myself this week on LinkedIn about, Veronica speak human, because that is, what I've been told is, I'm in my bubble, my agile bubble, and we have all this jargon and we have all these fancy things because we get so passionate about it. But when it comes to your everyday business and what you do, it becomes overwhelming because you're just like, speak human. What does that mean? What does that mean? What do I need to do with that? Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so we started to kind of peel that back. And we started thinking about how we can organize things. And so when we talk about these 3 secrets, if you're ready, I'll share, is we started to think about how we approach the 3 C's for a holistic approach to change, right? How do we categorize that a little bit better? And so what we ended up doing here, I'm trying to fix all my captions and graphics. I know it's like the behind the scenes here.
That's the live show for you, everybody.
Hey, whatevs is what I always say. So we have clarity, contribution, and communication. And we said, okay, what does that really mean? And so we talked about clarity being clear, transparent, and aligned. And contribution is really about bringing about a result and helping to advance one, right? And then communication, right? It's all about successful exchange of ideas and information. I think the key thing is the word successful.
It is, because otherwise there is no communication, actually.
Right. And so then we said, okay, well, what does that mean further when we think about strategy, process, and people?
Mhm.
And so we started to look at it in a different dimension. And so we said, okay, with clarity, when people need clarity, we're talking about our business strategies. We're talking about understanding our customer, right? Especially when we think about, outcome centric cultures. And then we can't forget our people, our talent, right? What does that mean in the big, you know, grand scheme of things? Because we have to have clarity around all three of these.
And I think clarity is also that's what you get when you plan around outcomes. Because if you're not having a common outcome, if you're not all moving into that direction, how well can you actually plan your next steps? How well can you actually implement those steps and get those results? And how well can you understand how you can serve your customers and how your people can contribute to that purpose and to that result? Because we're talking, at the end of the day, we're talking about profitable results. I think this is what we all want. I think, again, this is like in communication, communication. Successful is key. In results, profitable results for any business is going to be a key word.
Yeah.
So
It's
how
all
can you be clear about that?
and so that clarity, getting back to here, we were thinking about those three elements. So the next thing when we started diving even more in contribution is it's contribution and thinking of individuals, teams, and then you go further in business units, and organization, right, as a whole. And it's really the system of systems when we
Hmm?
talk about contribution, and it's so important. And today's topic, we're focusing on teaming, in that piece. And then the last thing is communication, right? We said, okay, what does that really mean? And we have these 3 points, and there's so much to unpack when it comes to this area. But we just landed on this for right now. Knowing you and I, we might evolve as we always do, but we said the things you say, the things you don't say, and the behaviors around them,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see about that when we get to our third point. I don't want to give away too much right now, but I would be very curious to know, for anyone who is watching either live or offline, the replay, what is your take on the three C's so far? Are you clear about how they can help and how they can help you with high performance, either individual or team high performance?
Yeah. And so as we start to dive into, and we'll talk about our first secret, here in a moment, we wanted to just introduce this 3 C's. And I think we're going to use this over again a lot with our show, because we find that when we're thinking about a holistic approach to change, there's always something about these 3 things, right? And then we start to think about strategy, people, and process in term with them as well. So let's dive into our first secret. Are we ready, folks, here? All right.
Drum roll.
So our first secret, lo and behold, since we are all about outcome centricity, is to align to outcomes. And so those of you, you've heard about, we talk about a lot of objective and key results in OKRs, but it's not just that, because I found a lot when I have conversations with people, OKRs has its anti-patterns. And so there's a great part of the other side, when it comes to outcomes, is not of what we do, but how we do it. And so that's kind of the visual I'm showing. When we align to outcomes, there's outcomes of how we do with OKRs, but there's outcomes on things like product discovery, hypotheses driven development, the validated learning, performance management. And so it's really all about aligning to outcomes, but using practices that support it. And the combination between OKRs and agile practices, to me, is the secret sauce to it. And so I give an example below here, where it has, this is, where I was thinking, okay, when we are thinking about our strategic initiatives, and then it turns into our product strategy, and then we have a product solution. And so then if I said, okay, in our agile world, right, we have things like strategic themes, epics, and features. So all of this, we start to say, okay, how are we positioning and aligning everyone to outcomes at every level is my point. But it's not just using OKRs. It's actually using all the practices from product management and agile and anything that we're doing in performance management today, right? That we are doing everything and using a holistic approach to it when it comes to strategy, people, and processes.
Um, for me, and I think, and for anyone watching, get onto our YouTube channel, because we had a discussion with Larry LaSalle about OKRs, and he introduced the whole concept, and he gives more details about it in that discussion. So we'll put the link to that video in the comments below. But for me, what was key was, if you're in business, and it doesn't matter if you're a top level executive or if you're leading a team from in the middle, right? You're a mid to senior manager, let's say. OKRs is going to help you be agile without even you knowing that this is what you're doing, because you will be able to plan better and execute better and have more people, ideally everybody on the team, more engaged, because this is a conversation that moves things just from the theory of how we used to do the planning. For instance, like if you think about yearly planning, that's going to be a little bit difficult to stick to in the current environment that's more volatile than ever. And when you plan based on OKRs, that's going to give you and your team that kind of flexibility so that you can adapt more regularly to the current environment, because environment, that means a lot in how you operate, in how you're able to operate, and in how you eventually give the result to your customer, how you serve your customer. So for me, not being in the agile world, but thinking about people in organizations who need to do planning differently than they have done so far, so that they can actually get those results faster and better and with more engagement from their team, especially in the hybrid work model, that's huge.
I love this because those of you, we'll put it in there. I'll also do a tag on YouTube that will direct you to the annual planning live that we had with Larry from Scaled OKRs, is one of our collaborating partners. And what I love about Larry and I always talk about what we love with Roxana, and she's not in our bubble. And so if she gets it and she sees it, then we know we're speaking the same language on how it can be beneficial. So
Yeah.
it's always your audit of sanity between Larry and I, because we've been doing it for so long. Sometimes we
Yeah.
need a different perspective, and that's what we love, what you bring to the table in our conversation. So we'll add
But
that.
that's a fair point,
Yeah.
because that's a lot of what people who manage projects or lead teams, when you've been in it for so long, having something that actually takes you from that place and just broadens your perspective and changes things for the best, that can only be super helpful, especially right now.
Yeah, so we're ready to go into our secret number 2. And this one's going to be interesting. We're going to peel the onion back on this. So here we have what is the ability to measure impact, the preferred energy with individuals. And what we're seeing here is actually the collective of a team, and using data and science to actually show. So we're going to talk about what you're actually seeing here. And so this is an outcome based people framework tool. It's a business tool, by the way, business tool. Once we actually understand what the outcomes that you're trying to achieve, we can actually see the probability of where we are with things for success in achieving them. And so think about what are the team's strengths. And so if we're looking at the data in here, if you look at the blue and the 57%, this is saying that this group has a lot of strategic energy in space. And so they probably are going to be really strong on trying to make sense of things, get clarity, and planning, right? They might even do too much planning as a strength on there. It might be overpowering some of the things they need to do. Right. And so what needs to be in place for this team to work most effectively? Well, if you look at here and they're aggregated data, and this is basically saying where they're going to put their preferred energy if we are not helping and coaching them to be more aware, right? So this is their dominant energies. And I say energy as in how we want to contribute and make an impact to the results. So again, if we are trying to, for example, create change, say this is a group of people that are trying to influence change in an organization. We know that there are a lot of people in these roles today, and they create teams that actually focus on doing this, right? We have transformation teams of all sorts, from business transformation to agile transformations, and you name it, right? Cultural change. Well, look at in the middle. The middle, that purple thing, is basically saying they're playmaking people, wanting to focus on people and getting everyone to collaborate and contribute together, right? Who's the one gathering everyone? It's at 0%. All their energy is probably going into strategic planning. And probably they're doing it more as an individualist and not as a collective. So what kind of results do you think? They probably have a hard time making a decision together. They probably spoil that.
And this is where it connects so well with what we've been saying so far with OKRs, for example. Because if you don't know, again, if you can't plan based on your outcomes, then you won't be able to measure how you're actually making things happen in relation to those outcomes that you have set for yourself. Like, for instance, a team that works very well with strategy, and then they implement, and then they polish, they develop their own products or their own services, that might work very well in a normal operational environment, right? If it's business as usual, and this has been giving you your results as a team or as an organization, that might work very well because you do the strategy, you implement, and then you develop further. And back to strategy, back to implementing, and back to developing. But what happens if your environment continuously changes? If you need to change the way you do things, if you need to go for those ideas that are so different that actually set you apart from the competition in a world that's continuously changing, and how do you make sure that people align to that? So that's where you have the 0% as a team, and that's where you might be struggling, not functioning in a business as usual, but functioning in something that needs to be different. So, and you might not see how you can make that possible.
If our outcomes are to try to help change the way we work, for example, let's put some context into it, and we're trying to drive predictability. And how we are doing it today isn't working. If I was to look at the dynamics of this team that's focusing on that, one is they may not be putting the energy in thinking of different approaches. So if you see the green there at 0%, that means that they have a low proclivity of wanting to focus and contribute on doing different. So when I see a lot of strategic thinking, and then that red is really about just getting to action and implementing the plan, they might be already by nature and by habit, and they can't help themselves because this is the dominant way, that their preferred way of contributing is business as usual. You're not going to get different. Now they might, as you see in the yellow, they might focus some on improving what is already there, but they're not going to think different approaches.
Yeah.
And you're still at jeopardy for them to even work cohesively together. So if we're talking about teaming and aligning people to outcomes, we will have to address this and figure out that we might have to organize ourselves around agility, right? Better, because this team has some blind spots and you
And
might
I
be
think,
at risk achieving those business results.
I mean, look at what happens, and this is what I see, and with some of the teams that I work with, that's why they're having a hard time, some of them, understanding how they can make the hybrid work model work well, and how you keep people engaged, how you keep creativity and innovation on a high level, how you keep people to collaborate. Like if you think about this team moving towards a hybrid work model, maybe they've been used to working in the office, and that's what you see from some of the big companies out there. They've been used to doing things one way, and they keep strategizing and implementing and developing that way, but they're not open to new ways of doing things, which is the hybrid work model, because how you collaborate and how you get your people to collaborate and contribute in the hybrid work model is going to be different. And where you're missing those two pieces of game changing and helping people, and playmaker, like helping people contribute together, that's going to be a problem, because you're going to keep spending your time in that strategy using the old model of working.
And so really what secret number 2 is that you do have the ability to make better people decisions around how you align in a teaming perspective and individuals and key roles when it comes to your outcomes. And it's all based
Yeah.
on impact. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the secrets of unlocking team potential, is now you can actually build teams that are outcome-based teams that are organized around more effectively, that increases your probability rate for success. That's the secret for number 2.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work on that, and we're going to probably talk about how and so forth in the future, upcoming near future, about the diagnostics that can help you in organization
Mm-hmm.
or within your business units or teams. But
But what
this
I
is
want to
a
say,
secret.
like,
I
yeah,
mean, we can actually do this now. You can align
exactly.
people to outcomes, and a lot of people aren't even aware of this.
So if you're interested to find out more about this tool, which Veronica and I use all the time in our work with individuals and teams, let's have a chat. Just message us, and we'll take it from there, because this is an important conversation when it comes to giving you the right kind of measurements and information so that you make better informed business decisions at the end of the day.
And so we've built outcome focused solutions using
Mhm.
this tool. I've done a lot when it comes to the agile practices
Yeah.
out there. So more to come on that, but more important, what was about the live was, this is actually one of the secrets, is you can align to outcomes. So let's talk about our next secret.
Hmm.
So this is around communication, right? So we talked about clarity. We talked about contribution, about aligning people to impacts. Now, when it comes to communication, it's clarify, don't assume.
Oh, yeah. And we see that happening all the time. And it's funny how I hear that, and most of the requests coming from teams and team leaders right now are around communication. How can we communicate more effectively? And I really, what I see is that we don't understand enough about how broad communication is and how many elements it includes. And so when we think about it, all of those communication breakdowns happen because we assume a bunch of stuff all the time, and we don't clarify enough. If we stopped assuming and started clarifying, we wouldn't have communication breakdowns. But that's almost impossible. So that's why I wanted to share how it works, because it usually starts from here. Somebody thinks about something that they
Mhm.
need to express. Well, for them, in order to express that, they need to use a code, right? They need to encode that thought to help it be expressed. So it can either be in a written form or in a spoken form or even body language. That's a way of expressing how we feel. So there's a lot that that sender has underneath the surface that influences the way they're going to express that thought. And that can be a bunch of skills that you're looking at, like public speaking is one, or if you think about influencing, right, and
Mhm.
how you're communicating, how you're saying what you're saying, how you use your body language and all of that, that's going to be a key part of it, right? Then think about your own communication style. And what I notice over and over again with communication, you might have a communication style, I might have a different one. And here's the thing, the way I'm going to express and communicate my information to you is also going to be the way in which I expect I'm going to receive the information from you. And that, of course, doesn't happen because we're all different and we are all have different communication styles.
And it's
And
contextual. It's
so,
not the
and it
same
is
all the time.
contextual, exactly, right? So, of course, communication doesn't stop there. So I express it and then you receive it. And here's the trick, the sender is going to be responsible to send the communication the best that they can, but then it's going to be up to the receiver to also receive the information and make sure that they're clear about what they just heard or about what they've just seen. If I don't know as a sender, if you don't send me feedback, if you as a receiver don't ask me questions, if you don't clarify, if you don't give me any kind of feedback as to how do you make sense of what I just said, then that does not mean that we're communicating. We're having maybe monologues in parallel, but that doesn't mean we're communicating. Communicating means you as a receiver need to make sure that you're getting the information that you need so that you can understand the whole message and align it with what it is that the sender meant to say. I mean, how many of you really feel listened to at work?
Yeah, I
How
shared
many of
on
you?
Friday. I haven't finished the book because I'm actually doing two things, which is applicable to this topic. And so I said, okay, stop reading the book, V. But I shared Shuva, which is part of that alignment book, on one of her things, and about that connection. And I also, talk about a lot of using different techniques, NLP. I use the lab profile to really understand the mental models of people.
Mhm.
And there's also other techniques and assessments that actually will help you understand how you listen, the different listening that's out there. But ultimately, I always believe is the more that you learn about yourself will allow you to learn more about others.
Mhm.
Because the minute you understand how you are receiving information, what your mental models are, how you listen for things, those communication styles that you're talking about. And again, it's contextual, it's not the same. So, how you might be on a personal level and in situations versus going to
Yeah.
work can be completely different. So, this is where you have to kind of experiment and learn about yourself. Because I can
Mhm.
tell you right now, in the last year, and I'm only saying this from personal experience, I have not mastered it, but my awareness in moving through this process has been a lot more enriching and satisfying
Yeah.
for me because I'm learning more about myself and my styles, which is now allowing me to be more aware about others. Have I mastered it? No, because I'm trying to get to the point where it's habitual and automatic for me. Because right now there's a thing where you're wanting to understand what people are saying, I'm trying to get to the point of learning how they say it. And that's hard when you're still trying to listen to what they're saying and do all these things that make feel connected. But I'm literally in this process because I'm in the, Shell Rose Charvet's, the lab profile, learning all of that is how you say it, because then it's helping me understand their mental models. Because then I can pivot, meet them at their bus stop, as what she always says, meet them where they are, and understand what they care about, so we can actually go along together in our communication. Because I know you and I, we did our lab profile in the work context. We work from a toward state when it comes to work. We're all about goals, right? And options. Well, not everyone is motivated by that. So if I start a conversation about achieving a goal, I might not have gotten half the people along with me because they're motivated by solving problems. And so I lost
because I'm not even asking. I'm just telling. If I always come from the perspective of telling, that's not going to give me all the information I need. And this is what we see a lot in our organization right now. And talking about what you just say, meeting them at their bus stop, what needs to absolutely happen in a team so that they're actually a real team is for all of its members to meet each other halfway or at each other's bus stop. Because if you, and that's what I see, and this is what becomes so overwhelming for team leaders right now, is that they have that drive that they want to do things, but they do things all by themselves and they take all of the responsibilities, and it becomes exhausting and then they don't understand what's wrong. Why aren't people engaged? Well, they're not engaged because you're doing everything and you're moving into the bus stop and you're living with them there, but they're not interested to meet you where you need to be because you're not asking, you're just telling, and you're so directive that you're not giving them any room to come towards you. So we have to meet halfway in a team together, and that's where that's when we know that communication is actually happening.
Yeah, and in our aligning to outcomes and people, when it comes to the GC index, we actually align communication with that process, because what we learned is, for example, not to go too far back, but just to show that percentage, give you an example here. If I was a leader, I don't have a leader example in this one. Say, for example, they are more game changer polisher like. Oh, me.
What if it was you?
And I'm talking to a team. This is a team, right? So, hey, I have to deal with this all the time. And they're highly strategic. And probably most of them are wanting to get to action, right? So they're very pragmatic, actionable people. They have to think things through, and they might not actually get to action right away. They may need some time for it to resonate. So as I'm talking and I'm teaching and I'm doing things as, an Agile coach, they might need 24 hours to simmer on it before they even decide and really resonate with them.
Yeah.
And I know that by looking at this, because if I have a lot of strategic people, they need time to process and make sense of it. I might even have to try many different ways on how I communicate with them and show them, because they might, however, each one of them might be different how they make sense of something.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're highly visual, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I have to kind of plug at it, because most of those people on the team, if it doesn't make sense for them, I've lost them. Them. And so this becomes highly beneficial if you're trying to unlock the potential in teams. All three of these elements is quite magical. It's not one or the other. And when you start to combine these things, and I think that's kind of our point, getting back to. So if we go back to our 3 C's, it's not one or the other, right?
It's all three.
Yeah. And so if we're clear about the outcome, and it depends in the context of what we're talking about, right? But if you're really running a business, you really want to know your business strategy. You really want to understand your customer, and you really want to understand the people that's doing the work, period.
Yeah.
So if you really come at it that way, I think it's a win-win in my personal opinion. And then, you want to understand how everyone's contributing, right? As an individual, as a team, and then what is our, system of systems. When
Mm-hmm.
you have the ability to have the most insight as possible, and I showed you a way to actually get that when it comes to outcomes, you're putting yourself in a better position as a business to actually build those high performance, cultures, and for profitability, because really
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's what it matters in business. And how you communicate. So all of these pieces, as we share today, of the three secrets, is fundamentally from these three C's.
Mm-hmm. It is. And we're going to build on that more and more. But and this is what we've been saying all the time, really. It takes the holistic approach. It's not one recipe over another, especially in this kind of context where you need to basically reinvent the way that you do things very often, or at least more often than we were used to doing that. So looking at it holistically is that's only going to help move better and faster. That's the thing, because look, the pace is fast anyway, so you don't want to get stuck in doing the same thing over and over again. That doesn't give you the results that you want. You want to be able to adapt. Flexibility is a key word, and we hear that all the time. This is what the 3 C's give you.
Yeah. And so for today, our three secrets to unlocking hidden talent is, number one, just a quick recap, is aligning to outcomes. Aligning to outcomes based on impact. So that's about how you're organizing people around it to your
Mhm.
outcomes. And then the last thing is clarify, don't assume. So those are our three secrets for today. Now, I know between you and I, we have more to talk about next week when it comes to outcomes. I mean, we're all about outcome centricity, helping
Yep.
shift your organizations for building high performance cultures for profitability, right? So our next one, we're going to have our guest Larry's coming back to
Yay.
join us about why great managers focus on outcomes, not output. So that's going to be our topic for next Wednesday. We're going to do a morning schedule next Wednesday. I believe it's at 8:15.
Yeah.
I didn't put it on there because I realized just keep it a little relaxed. All
Yeah.
of us are very busy in schedules, and we try to keep up, making sure we have these lives. So we all have day jobs that are doing different things. So we want to keep them.
Yeah.
We've been doing
I
this
mean,
for a year. We've been
talk
doing
about
this for a
outcome focus.
year, right? So, well,
Yeah.
yeah, we know our outcome is to be able to provide with, doing this show. It was really important to us. And so we
Yeah.
said, we have to allow some flexibility. Otherwise, it'll die on the sword because we have
Exactly.
so many other things you and I have to do. So our also when it comes to blah, blah, blah outcomes, GCW special offer for scaled OKRs. If you're interested in learning how to scale or OKRs effectively, okay. I'm going to say the word effectively because they have to have meaning and
We
purpose.
have a lot of keywords today.
So
Interesting.
we have a promo code that will provide $200 off for any of the classes out there. So you can use that link if you are having trouble. Just message Roxana or myself. We'll also
Yep.
put that in the comments. But we always will offer GCW specials. Those of you that are watching, and this is ours that we're sharing for today. So
Yeah.
next week again, why great managers focus on outcomes, not output. And Larry from Skilled OKRs is going to join us. Of course, he's going to put his little tidbits about OKRs.
Of course.
Um,
But
and,
yeah, so if you're a great manager, join us. Join us. Like we're gonna do it, and it's before. If you're in ET time zone, then you're good. Even
hey,
before work, you're getting some
that's,
great ideas how to be
that's
a
what
great manager.
replays are
Yeah.
for. We have a whole
Yeah.
entire YouTube channel that you can go to that has the collection of all our videos for the last year for you to watch. So thank you everyone for joining Roxana and myself today. And we're always here helping influence the modern workplace. So
See you next time.